Hey everybody, it's Ed here. Just wanted to go ahead. We're going to do a quick video on adding the Firefox browser to your A6 2 Nomad from Supernote. And, since they opened up the sideloading capabilities, it's really been kind of a game changer. I've seen people doing all kinds of things. I know some people have managed to get Obsidian to work. I've already done a video where didn't work so well for me, but if you can do that, great, more power to you. But for me, I struggled with that. But what I have done is I've added my reading apps and I went ahead and added the Firefox browser so that I could see, what the functionality differences were to be able to have something besides the default browser and what that experience was like. And as you'll see from this video, it's a little bit mixed. You can turn Firefox into your default browser. It does have a navigation bar, so you could start engaging with web content. It's very slow, just like the original Supernote browser is. It's actually in some ways a little harder to use because although it's a small thing, it's not as easy to get back to your note, and you'll see that when we do the demo. Overall, it could be a really game-changing thing for people who are just looking for things that lend themselves to uh, the e-ink space. So you're not going to watch videos on it. It's not going to be something that's going to, replace your laptop or really be used for that type of a use case. But it will be something that if you want to link out to a quick document, if you want to link to a website that you know loads fairly quickly, you could use this and use it effectively. And the game-changing piece is being able to go to the address bar and put in a new address and not have to go back to your document, hit another link, and go to the web again. That being said, let's go ahead and jump in and I will. All right, everyone. So here we are with the Supernote A6X2 Nomad. And I'm going to show you really quickly how you can set the device to have a new default browser. One of the things on the Nomad that we've covered on the channel before is the fact that you can now sideload apps. I've got a sample note here with 4 different websites, and I'm going to kind of walk you through how you would change the browser first to the default and then kind of show you what that looks like. One of the biggest things about the default browser for the Supernote browser is that it's not customizable, and the fact that you can't, once you're in it, go to different links unless they're on the page. You can go from links within your documents, but there's no address bar. This is a good way to kind of get around that. I'm going to be using Firefox in this case because when I went to APK Mirror, it was the one that said it was from Mozilla. I've heard that APK Mirror is pretty reliable and pretty reputable, but I just urge you to be safe if you're going to sideload apps. Try to look for them coming from the actual companies if at all possible. And I'm very intentional about what apps I sideload. I don't want this device to do everything. I want it to do the things that I need it to do for what I'm trying to accomplish. When you're in landscape mode, and primarily I went into landscape mode because it's just a little too small for me to see in the regular size. For some people, that's not going to be an issue, but for me, it is. And so that top bar, when you're in landscape mode, becomes your menu mode. You drag across the top bar and it pulls your menu down. You'll see here we have some side-loaded apps. I'll press, and now I can see basically what my side-loaded, for lack of a better term, app store is. You'll see here that I have Firefox. I'll go to my Settings tab, and I will go here on Settings, and then I'll scroll down just a little bit, and you'll see here where it says Set as Default Browser. And I'll press the button, and it's going to come up, and it's going to say the current default is the Supernote browser, and I want to change that. I will press the Firefox browser as the new default and say Set as Default. Now I can go ahead and get out of this. We'll go back to our note, last open note. And now when we go to open any of these, it's going to open in the Firefox browser instead of the Supernote browser. So let's go ahead and go to Google. I'm just going to show you kind of the thing that does change, which is right here at the top. You'll see now I have an address bar. That's a huge deal for someone who wants to use this not as a video platform watching. You're not going to want to go to YouTube on this. But for someone who's just trying to look up a website really quickly and while they're in the browser, rather than having to go back and forth to the note and the link within the note all the time, this is a nice workaround and a way out of that. I can say, okay, well, I don't really want to be in Google anymore. Let's go to msn.com. So msn.com and then hit enter. And now it's going to go ahead and load msn.com. Now, just as with the Supernote browser, this is not the snappiest of experiences. It's not going to load super fast for any app, but you get pretty good clarity. And once you're in the site, once it's finished loading, here in just a second, we'll let it finish, you get pretty good image quality. And the zoom, I accidentally hit that. The zoom is pretty responsive. I mean, you're going to get what you get on any panel that's trying to do this without some kind of dedicated chip. You're going to get some of that cascade effect when you go to make it a little bit bigger. But once you do, you get a pretty decent ghosting experience. And then you can go ahead and hit that swipe to make it look even better. And then your links are live and you can go ahead and click on those. And it should. I accidentally moved it. I had to click or press. And then that'll take you into the article you want to see. Again, not going to be super fast. This isn't something that you're going to want to, rely on as your primary browser. But at the same time, if you want to read something on e-ink, this is a nice way to be able to do that. And the text is pretty crisp. It does take it a while to load images, but you can see from here that the text itself is pretty good. And when I blow that up and move it around, it's a pretty clear contrast. So it's not a bad image at all. One thing that you're going to notice about having this set as your default browser is you do lose one of the things that is very easy to have in the default Supernote browser. Remember, when you have that browser on, there's an X right here at the very top, and you would just click that X and immediately go back to your note. That is not a functionality if you reset the default browser. You're not going to be able to go ahead and go through and just immediately return to your note with that navigation that you're accustomed to. It is a change in the behavior of the device. Now, it's very easy from this side panel to go ahead and go to last open note, and then you're right back to where you were. You can go ahead into Amazon, and sometimes it loads fairly quickly. So I don't know if that is the website being optimized and being able to move pretty quickly through it. But the Amazon website there had images pop up fairly quick instead of taking as long as some of the others did to be able to open those images. Now, it could be, as you can see, it's refreshing constantly. So it may be that Amazon is doing, for those of you who remember old school internet, you would get basically the low resolution images that would populate first or right away, and then they would enhance themselves and bring that quality up as the packets were delivered to your machine. Now, that's old school. That's back when we had dial-up internet, but they didn't want you to sit there and wait forever for every single thing to load before you saw anything. So for those of you who are, of a certain age, you'll remember that as being a thing. But again, this opened fairly well. You can see a lot of good contrasts here. It looks even better off camera. I know sometimes the camera, it's hard to capture the really good detail, but this is very nice. And again, do that swipe. Go to my last open note. One other thing I do want to show really quickly on Google is that even though I am signed into Google, the grid will not work for me. Now, I don't know if that's an optimization issue with Google. The grid does, I believe, work in the Supernote browser, but for some reason in Firefox, I can press this grid all day long and it is not a live link. So I can't see Google Docs. I can set a link from within my file to go directly to a Google Doc. Drive does work if you type it in. So if we go to the address bar, type in drive, Google.com. You can write this in, but I'm using just the keyboard entry because that sometimes can be a little bit faster, especially when you're dealing with spaces and things like that. Sometimes the handwriting recognition will add a space here and there, and then you have to go back and hit delete and backspace to be able to get that in there. And it really depends. Sometimes it picks it up perfectly. Sometimes there's a little bit of an error. But if I type on the keyboard, for the most part, it's going to know exactly what it needs to see. What I think will be really interesting is when Rada gets the desktop app fixed so that you can use your keyboard from your PC to type into these areas. That'll make the browser a little bit more functional as you're trying to look up something really fast, whether it's with a Bluetooth keyboard just attached to the device, or whether it's through the desktop app and being able to type that directly into the field. But for now, this is a workaround and it does change the game a bit. Again, you still can't edit Google Docs or Sheets or anything within the app, but the Firefox browser is a little bit faster, a little bit snappier, a little bit better quality as far as image rendering in most cases. Another thing you could do here is to set a main start page and just have your icons here. That would allow you to more seamlessly move through some of these different components. So say I wanted to have my drive, recent documents, other things that I know I'm going to want to access when I log in. And I could do that very easily with this browser where you couldn't do that as easily with um, the Supernote browser. So for example, when you come over here, you have the full settings. So you can do a tab set, you can set a custom homepage, set tabs, set your customized search, all of these different options that just don't exist in the Supernote default browser. Again, it seems like a small thing, but it's actually a really powerful tool. There you have it. Like I said, quick, easy. I will be right back. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about the browser and how that would work. Now, I didn't try some of the browsers that are out there on APK Mirror, like the Edge. It says Canary after it, and I'm just a little leery of anything that's not from the provider. Like the Firefox browser I downloaded was from Mozilla. I can trust that. Chrome and Edge both said Canary, so I'm not 100% sure. You can drop something down in the comment like, Edge, you're being overly cautious. It's fine. But I didn't know. And if I don't know, I'm pretty much going to err on the side of caution and not install something that could be harmful. But as you can see, it's a mixed bag. On some sites, the Firefox browser works really good and it's snappy and it's fast and it loads the images. The Amazon site did very well, loaded things, but you could see it kind of doing that old school refresh that used to happen back in the day of dial up, where it would load, but then it would get sharper over time. That's just what you get with this type of technology. Other things, kind of struggled a little bit. I was interested to see that you couldn't open up the Google Apps panel from within Google when you were logged in. And I thought that was kind of interesting because you would think that since it's a link, it would transfer over. But the things you gain by being able to have a browser that you can navigate without having to go back to a note first to then go back to the web is a huge improvement and something really welcomed, I think, for this device, as long as you know the websites you want to use and the things and the content you want to view to make that happen. But anyway, if you enjoyed this, if you had a good time, if you like the content that I make, please continue to like and subscribe and comment. I really enjoy the comments that you all bring to the table. I like to learn from you and see what your experiences are. And of course, I'll keep providing my experience. Everyone's is different. But for me, this could be a really good productivity tool to be able to have a secondary browser that actually functions as a full-fledged browser versus, although by no means not useful at all, the Supernote browser. But once you're in it, you're kind of um, beholden to the pages you give as links from notes. You can't really go or do anything else. But as always, um, thank you very much for watching. As I said, like, subscribe, comment. Love to hear from you, and I will see you soon.